Late last year, a Broadway giant announced its anticipated closure after 35 years of sharing the music of the night. In 1988, The Phantom of the Opera was the latest in a line of British musicals invading the Great Brightway, following in the steps of Cats and Les Mis. Now, most actors stayed with this show for about a year and a half, 2 years at most, except for our next performer, who holds a place in the Guinness Book of World Records because he stayed there for 23 years. Ladies and gentlemen, George Lee Andrews. Hey, George, how you doing? What a story. Absolutely. You got it, George.
Hi, dears. I'm going to just bring up a couple of reminiscences for you from my time at Phantom and my time with the great Hal Prince. And I had a wonderful run, my wife and I, Marty, she's over there, my beautiful wife, Marty. We had a wonderful run with Hal once I got into a little night music. And then we had about 5-6 years where we worked with Hal. We did the tour of night music, and then I did on the 20th century, and we did wonderful things. But about 1978, he went on to other things, and we went on to other things, and we raised a family, and we did shows out in the hinterlands, and we did shows in New York. We finally ended up actually at the Fantastics at Sullivan Street Playhouse, and thanks. Yeah, it was great. It was lovely, and actually, Marty did it with me. She was one of the loveliest Louisas ever. And my daughter Jennifer came from high school, and we recommended her for the show, and she jumped into the show, the youngest girl ever to play Louisa, and her daughters are right there now. They're extremely talented, beautiful girls, Sasha and Harper. So, but anyway, the girls left, and I stayed in Fantastics because I had to make a buck. And it was literally a buck. You know, we were living in New York, and we had started a family, and we had 2 kids, and we were living on a shoestring. But it was great. It was lovely. So now I'm getting to the point where finally we ran into Judy Prince and Daisy Prince at a place where a farmer's market on Columbus Avenue. And we renewed our friendship with them. We had had fun with them when we were working for Hal. And I said to Judy, "What's Hal doing now?" And she said, "You don't know what Hal's doing now?" I said, "No." She said, "Last night, he opened the biggest hit in London theatrical history, The Phantom of the Opera, last night." I'm like, oh my God, that's amazing. And I found out later that really, Phantom really opened because of Hal. I learned later from an English documentary that actually Andrew and Cameron, they were ready to put the show away because they couldn't get it to work. They could not make it happen. And they were really going to close. Andrew was going to close. A couple of days before the opening, Hal said, "Okay, everybody now, from now on, does only what I say. I'm going to take total control of this show, and I'm going to see what I can do with it." And of course, they had doves flying around. It was crazy. But he put all that away, and he took a hold of the show, and he turned it into the Phantom that we know today, which is a brilliant show. So anyway, in my mind, I think, oh boy, that means that show's probably going to come in here to New York in less than a year. Gee, if I could get an audition for that and get into that thing, that would be a great Broadway contract to get a hold of. So I did. What I did was I got an audition, and then I got a callback. And Marty and I went to the callback because she was my musical director also. Pretty nice to be married to your musical director. But I didn't have to sing anything with her. They just had me do a few things from Prima Donna, a few phrases from Prima Donna. Well, It took place, this audition took place in a theater, and every single comedic character actor in New York was there. They were all in that theater. The place was just bulging with great actors, and you looked at it and you said, how am I going to get in this? Everyone is here in this audition. Well, I got in front of, finally it was my turn, and I sang my song, and silence. And all of a sudden I hear some discussion out in the audience, and who's out there? But I'm just standing there, and finally Hal raised his hand and said, just stay there a minute, George, just stay there a second. So I stood there. They're still discussing. I finally learned what they were discussing is Cameron and Andrew were saying, no, we shouldn't have this guy come in the show. And Hal said, no, I think we should put this guy in the show. They said, no, it won't work because you want him to do Donatello and Passerino, but normally that person is the understudy to the Phantom in London. They didn't want to change anything from how it was in Phantom. And Hal said, no, don't worry about it. I have a good idea. I've got somebody to do the Phantom understudy. I'd like this guy to do those two parts, and then he can understudy the managers. And they went on about that. They weren't really happy about that. Finally, Hal gets up. I stood there a while they were discussing this. Finally, Hal gets up from his seat and walks up the aisle and beckons me over to the side of the stage. So I walk over to the side of the stage, and I lean down, and he leans up, and he says, I really want to get you in this show. And I'm like, good. Yes. And I really felt later when I thought about this that, Hal had always treated us so wonderfully, and he was very sweet to our family, our little family that was growing, and he loved Marty, and so we had a great rapport with him. And all of a sudden I realized, he's not wanting to just get me in this show. He loves the fact that he could put me in this show, and my family would be able to be a part of this wonderful thing, which is obviously going to have legs. So that's how it worked out, of course, and Hal was very sweet that way, always to us. I guess I need to mention really quickly, just as a sideline, what my real claim to fame is, and that is that for 25 years, I streaked to Majestic Theater every day on my birthday. Okay, so I wanted to get that out of the way so that you really knew what my real claim to fame was. So. Okay, now I'm going on to so that's how I got into Phantom. Now here's how I got out of Phantom. So long about into the 24th year, almost into the 25th year, I get a little note backstage. I'm having a great time in the show, really loving it. I had just gotten all new costumes. That's a fortune. I used to wear Nick Wyman's costumes. I mean, Nick Wyman's skeleton outfit, which I would put it on, and his hands would be hanging down here with my arms, and I wore that for many years. They got me all new costumes. I thought, I think I'm doing okay here. I did have to be renewed 46 times during those years. I had to be renewed every 6 months. So that's a little scary. We get to that last year or so, and all of a sudden I get a little note from the company manager, and it says, can you see me in the office at 1 o'clock tomorrow? And I said, oh, yeah, sure. So I got upstairs to my dressing room. David Cryer's up there. He's in the dressing room with me at that time. He's my partner. And he said, I got a message from the company manager. I said, yeah, so did I. What is this about? And we looked at each other and got quiet. And then we said, they're not going to dump us. And I said, no, I just got new costumes. That can't work. And not only that, we're having a ball. We're doing great. Everybody says we're great. No, it's not that. So then I'm thinking as the evening went on, all of a sudden I got a bright idea. I thought, oh, wait, I know what this is. This is last year when they did Les Mis 25th anniversary. They did a huge gala. I mean, I think they did it at Royal Albert Hall, and they filmed it, and they brought all stars in. You probably have seen it. And not only that, though, they brought all people from all the tours around the world. They brought them all into this gala, and they all appeared in it. So I thought, I know. They're going to invite us over to be the Phantom, to be in the Phantom 25th anniversary gala in London. That's what this must be. And I told this to David, and he said, yeah, that sounds good. And I said, that's got to be what it is. And so we said, we went to bed that night, slept soundly with sugar plums dancing in our heads, thinking of, we're going to London. So the next day, we went into the office. I went into the office, and I remembered it was very dark in the office. And there was no one there. It must have been a Saturday, but there's never no one there. You know, there's always bustling around in there. Nobody. It was quiet and dark. Someone came out and said, come back to the conference room. So we went back to the conference room, and there were all the bigwigs there. All the guys were there, and Hal was on the phone, and a long-distance call. And then they let us know that, no, they were not going to renew us, which was a big shock. And they spent a lot of really wonderful time saying, it doesn't have anything to do with your performance. It doesn't have anything to do with how you're doing in the show. Not only that, Hal has been fighting against this for months and months. He's very angry, which he said. But Cameron has finally decided, well, he said, no, I'm going to make changes. I'm going to make changes now. He had wanted to do that for a long time. And he did make changes all the way along. Hal just had wonderfully kept me in the show all that time. Well, when I left there, I was angry. And as I was walking down the stairs, I was fuming. And I was thinking weird things like, they shouldn't be the ones who tell me if I leave this show. I should say if I leave this show or not. You know, and thinking things like that, which makes no sense when you think about it. But I finally, after about an hour or two, all of a sudden I thought, this is fine. This is going to be great. I'm going to do something else, and God, it's been such a wonderful deal, and it's been fine. So I was feeling okay. But when I would get home, friends would say, "What? They're letting you go from Phantom? Why?" And I would have to say, "Producer's whim," because it wasn't for anything, I don't think, any mistakes or any problem that I was having. But no, that's what it was. It was Cameron wanted to change things. And so I'd fume about that a little bit. And finally, my wife, Marty, said, you're going about this all wrong. I said, what do you mean? She said, what you really need to do is you really need to write Cameron Mackintosh a letter and thank him for the wonderful opportunity you've had and how great it's been and what a thrill it's been, and just write him a great letter of thank you. And I thought, yeah, she's right again. That's exactly the tack I have to take. And so I did, and he wrote me back a lovely letter back, and that's how I got out of Phantom. And then I went to Ricky. Then I went to Ricky Martin's Evita.